Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. This is Sir Abdul Basit, your faculty for SBL. And in the last class, what we did, we covered professional skills and formats, right? So this was a brief intro of SBL. And uh, and since we are following the approach that how to pass it, right? Since we are following the approach that how to pass it, we are doing practice for which we have done uh, silver named mini mock, right? We have done cheap kit, we have done link, and we have done Domoscope. So we have completed these. We have completed these. And now what else is left? Now these four things are done, right? These four mini mocks are done. Now we have to move on specimens, and therefore, moving on specimens, I wanted you to have a session on formats and professional skills, which is now done, right? I wanted you to have a session on formats and professional skills, which is now done. So now that we can use, those skills we have learned into the specimens, right? So our target for this week is these three specimens. Our target for specimens is these three specimens, 1, 2, and 3. They were issued before September 18th exam when SBL was launched, right? So these three papers were given to you to help you. These three papers were given to you to help you, right? So we'll be solving all of these three papers. We'll be solving all of these three papers, and we'll be doing theories which have been tested in these exams, right? So our first target is to deal with DCS, right? Our first target is to deal with DCS. So let's have a look on it and see what its demands, right? Just to let you know, since now we are entering into the SBL's world, right? Now these are bigger questions. These are heavier questions than those of mini mocks, right? They are much heavier. They are much bigger. So this is the important thing that you have to do that, right? Yeah. So we have to follow this question, and our target for this week is to cover this, and this, right? These three questions. And again, we'll be learning some new theoretical topics in it. And obviously, this is going to be a helper for us because we'll be covering theory as well as the practice, right? And I've told you at the initial stage also that considering only theoretical matters, and if you have done theory, you'll get 5 to 10% marks, right? But if you have gone through the practice and you have done enough practice, so it's going to be 90 to 95%, right? So it's going to be 90 to 95%. I hope you guys have understood that, right? So let's move on to the specimens. Here it is. Until now, uh, the drafting classes which we had, the class notes have been uploaded to the LMS, right? The class notes have been uploaded to the LMS. So you could have that. And since then, if we consider more writing material, that will also be uploaded to LMS, right? That's going to be also be uploaded to LMS. Now, here it is. Specimen 1, valid from September 18th, right? So see, our target is for each specimen. Let me write here. For each specimen, we're gonna be having three classes, right? One for planning, one class for planning, and 2 classes for drafting. So we're going to be having 3 classes for each specimens, right? And each of SBL's paper. If you're thinking of mini mocks, we covered them in 2 classes, I guess. But for specimens, we need 3 classes if we are properly drafting, right? If we are properly drafting, so we need to do that. Now see, obviously it's on SBL's old material exam, right? It's SBL's old material exam, old type exam, right? It was of 4 hours. The new exam is of 3 hours and 15 minutes, right? The question is integrated case study with one section containing 100 marks, right? All tasks contains professional skill marks, which are included in marks shown above. Do not open this question paper until instructed by supervisor and all that, right? So here it is. Yeah. So here it is. The first part of specimen we'll be targeting this to cover. Considering the difficulty level, it's slightly easy question, as the topics which are tested initially have already been learned by you, right? As the topics which have been tested initially have already been learned by you in the mini mocks. So therefore, it's going to be an easy one. But again, there are some difficult areas in this question which you have to look for. But again, there are some difficult areas in this question which you have to look for, right? And yeah, there's no stopping writing you. There's no stopping writing you. If you have taken the class of understanding, of planning, you can draft your answer and send it to me, right? And send it to me. I'll check it for sure. I'll check it for sure, right? So let's have a look on this. Now, you are Hui Lui, a management consultant, leading a small team which has been commissioned to prepare a consultancy report. So you have been given a target of being an Hui Lui, and who is she? She is a management consultant of a leading small team which is commissioned to prepare a consultancy report, right? So you have to make a consultancy report for data communication service, that's DCS company directors, to help them plan for next 3 years. So now you are going to provide them a consultancy. This is not an auditor related work, right? You're going to provide them a consultancy for a plan of next 3 years, right? For the plan of next 3 years. Now, DCS company has 2 product areas. The largest area is to manufacture data communication components, which it mainly sells to original equipment manufacturer, right? So they have 2 type of product portfolio. If I say their portfolio includes 2 type of products, right? One is original equipment manufacturer, right? OEM. One is OEM, right? And the other one is one is data communication components, that's DCC, data communication components, and they sell this mainly to OEM, right? And they sell this mainly to OEM, right? The other smaller and less developed area is based on supply and support contracts for specialist IT management network systems, right? Mainly to domestic medium-sized enterprises. Mainly to domestic medium-sized enterprises, right? The other smaller and less developed area is based in supply and support contracts for specialist IT management network. And other product is there's some specialized services, right? Other product of there's some specialized services. So why are you noting this? Because it would help you to draft an answer, right? I'll just request you to note some requirements or note some important notes which you require, right? So that's going to be helping you in drafting and understanding the entity. So that's going to be helping you, right? Now, based on supply and support contracts for specialist IT management network systems, mainly to domestic medium-sized enterprises, right? You are a qualified accountant and your colleague are Danny Lemon, a company researcher, Freddie Lithium, who is a part qualified finance professional. So you have 2 teams here. So you have a post team of 2, Danny Lemon and a Freddie Lithium, right? You and your team have collected and analyzed following information about DCS company to help you prepare a consultancy report. So you have these exhibits, right? Now the number of exhibits are going to be more than mini mocks, and the data in the exhibits is going to be more than mini mocks, right? You have a report on DCS company's organizational overview to obviously give you an understanding of the DCS, right? To obviously give you an understanding of the DCS, the external environment, and discuss the business model, the external environment, right? And discuss the business model sourced, prepared by Danny Lemon, your colleague. So this one is prepared by your colleague, right? A transcript from interview which was held between you and Java Piraya, the CEO of DCS. So you have got a transcript. You have interviewed CEO of DCS, Mr. Java Piraya, and what he wants you. Uh, he have given some transcript of your discussion, right? Summary of financial and business performance of DCS company extracted from integrated report presented to you by finance director. So you have been given some integrated reporting summary to you. You have been given some integrated reporting summary to you, presented to you by finance director of DCS company, right? So that's also a great thing. Then DCS company presented to you by marketing manager of DCS, that the October board report, a recent board meeting notes. It's obviously an important thing, right? It's obviously an important thing to have a board report. So having a board report is a great thing that you could discuss. You could see what board future plans are and what they are thinking. So you should be knowing that, right? So presented to you by marketing manager of DCS company. An evaluation of alternative future strategies being considered by DCS company board, prepared and presented to you by your colleague Freddie Lithium. So alternative future strategies we have, right? They have think of the future strategies also. Minutes from the focus group meeting you held with the middle management of DCS company. Minutes from the focus group meeting you held with middle management of DCS company, right? Following your findings, you are now starting to prepare the consultancy report and associated tasks, right? So, Exhibit 1, I report to DCS company's organizational overview, external environment, business models, right? A transcript from interview which was held between you and Java Piraya, summary of financial and business performances, right, in an integrated perspective. So you have got 3 important topics. Then we have October board report, right, a recent board meeting held, strategic choices and all that, an evaluation of alternative future strategies being considered by DCS company, right, being considered by DCS company board. Minutes of the focus group meeting held by middle management, right, minutes of the focus group meeting held with middle management of DCS company. Following your findings, you are now starting to prepare a consultancy report and associated tasks, right? So the case requirements are included in the task shown below. Now, I would just ask you to make a list that what are the requirements, right? Just on a rough paper, make a list that what are the requirements, right? See, 1A, from the information you have collated, draft a section of a consultancy report. Okay, so we're going to be allocating colors here. We have more requirements, so think of it for sure, right? Yeah, so from the information you have collected, draft a section of a consultancy report. So we need a section of a consultancy report for the directors, our audience as directors, right? For the DCS company to include the following: an analysis of the industry and market which DCS company is competing in with appropriate model. Examiner do not usually ask to draft you through a model, but in some questions they have asked, so you have to follow the model, right? So industry and the market analysis of the industry, it's basically assessing the environment, So I guess Potter 5 forces is asked here, right? I guess Potter 5 forces is asked here. So whether if I used pestle, what's the problem? Nothing is the problem. You could do best, right? But obviously we're going to be considering the data availability, the points that we have got, right? Then an evaluation of the overall performance of DCS company between 2012 to 2015 from an integrated reporting perspective. So they have given you a data. I guess this requirement is totally from Exhibit 3. This requirement is totally from Exhibit 3 because in Exhibit 3, there was an integrated data reporting data given, and they have asked simply. So we could allocate a requirement here. We could allocate an exhibit here that while attempting this requirement, we are going to focus on, Exhibit 3 because it totally depends on Exhibit 3, right? And professional skills are here for evaluation, that's 4 marks. So that means that's going to be equally split if there's nothing mentioned. So it's equal split n plus 2 plus 2, right? So this is your first part. So this is your first part you need to see. And I'll consider this is an easy one because you guys have done Potter 5 courses, you guys have done PASTEL, you guys have done exhibit related, integrated reporting related work, you know evaluation skill. So now you just need to have, just need to gather the data and rest everything can be done easy, right? So you just need to gather the data and rest can be done easily. So now B. You are now reviewing the transcript of the interview you held with Java Piraya. So now they have directly associated you to an exhibit now. That transcript you are reviewing with Java Piraya. So that was, I guess, exhibit 2, right? So again, I guess this requirement is going to be from exhibit 2. This requirement is totally going to be from exhibit 2. That's perfect, right? The CEO of DCS company, and you identify some weaknesses relating to their governance. So now here comes the governance chapter. So now here comes the corporate governance chapter. I hope you guys know a brief about that. Obviously, we're gonna be discussing this chapter before attempting this requirement, so don't you need to worry. But before that, I just need to make sure that you remember that what was corporate governance. You have an idea that what exactly it wants, right? You want to include in the consultancy report, DCS company, which you want to include in the consultancy report, right? So explain the key weaknesses of the current governance structure of DCS company since it became a public limited company, recommending they should be addressed, right? And skepticism skills. Now they want you to criticize their governance structure. There might be some problem in their governance structure because now it's in public limited company, and since it's in public limited company, it has a public dealing, public being its major stakeholder. So you need to be focusing more on the governance, right? And corporate governance issues some of the highlights that setting up an internal audit, chairman CEO should be different. I hope you remember, you guys have done this in F8 AA exam, right? You guys have done this in AA exam and AAA also. If someone has attempted AAA, he must be remembering the corporate governance. Although I am going to teach you, no worries about that, right? Although I am going to teach you. Now, under the strategy and resource allocation heading in the October board report. So again, they asked you in the October board report, the possibility of DCS companies supplying and supporting such technologies as cloud computing and big data analytics is referred to. Again, these two are the topics which we are going to cover before attempting this, right? These are the topics which we are going to cover before attempting, right? Is referred to. To accompany the consultancy report, a presentation is needed about the exploitation of such new technologies, right? So prepare information for 2 presentation slides to be presented to the board. So now you have to present this to the board, including bullet points and supporting notes, highlighting key benefits and identifying the main opportunities presented by big data analytics to DCS company and its customers. And you have got 8 marks, communication skills. Usually slide is tested in communication skills, right? So now big data cloud computing, what you need to do, you need to make relevant points and slides and all that, right? And in usually slides, you write less because you have made bullets. So they want you to identify benefits of cloud computing and big data analytics. And along with that, you have to mention the opportunities presented by big data analytics and its customers, right? For DCS to its customers, right? So 8 marks for that, 8 marks for that. And now the D part. See, it's only the first requirement. You can look into it. It's only the first requirement, right? D. You have noted from information you have gathered that DCS company has increasing carbon footprint, right? So DCS has been increasing carbon footprint here. DCS has been increasing carbon footprint here, right? So which it estimates in total, but is failing to control adequately. So as part of our consultancy report, you are considering recommending to DCS company that it commissions a specialist environment and sustainability company to assess the issues of DCS company. So now draft a concise section of a consultancy report, which construct the case. Now here you're going to learn, to creating a case, how to create a case, how to create a business case, right? So creating a case, right? Creating a case, commissioning an environmental and sustainability audit for the DCS company from both financial and environmental perspectives, suggesting ways in which consultants might assist DCS company managers to become more sustainable in management of DCS company carbon footprint, commercial acumen. So now basically you have to give them a financial and environmental perspective, right? Now think of the requirement. I'll ask each and every student before attempting read every requirement twice, right? So that you exactly understand what the examiner is demanding, right? It's the examiner has given many times in its examiner article that students didn't understood what I have demanded, right? So what exactly it has demanded, you have to look for it, right? So draft a concise section of a consultancy report which constructs the case for commissioning an environmental and sustainability audit of DCS company from both financial and environmental perspectives, suggesting ways in which consultants might assist DCS company managers to become more sustainable in the management, right? For DCS carbon footprint and commercial sense. You obviously have to give them ways which are commercially sound and they are going to reduce their carbon footprint too. And hence the first requirement, which includes of 60 marks, is being covered, right? The first requirement, which includes 60 marks, has been covered, right? We haven't read any exhibits till now, right? We haven't read any exhibits till now. We need to look into that. But till now, that's covered. Now, the second requirement. In the October board report, the ED refers to a number of factors affecting DCS company and they need to choose one of the 2 strategic options. So section of a report identifying and discuss 3 main risks which DCS company currently faces and plot them on a heat map. So now they want you to make a heat map also. So now they want you to make a heat map also, identify 3 main risks, right? Identify 3 main risks and then DCS company currently faces and plot them on a heat map recommending appropriate strategies to manage those risks using an appropriate risk management framework. Using an appropriate risk management framework. And marks are this. Marks are this, right? So commercial acumen again. Commercial acumen again. Now here, the risk, plotting them on heat map, and the strategies to mitigate those risks, right? And again, from which exhibit this could be answered? So I guess they have given us data which maintains the risk. If they could have given us the data for the risk, I guess there must be included in some of the exhibit. It's not particular to one exhibit, right? This requirement is not particular to one exhibit. Fine, and if it's not particular to one exhibit, that's totally fine. So you are reviewing the spreadsheet prepared by your colleague, Freddie Lithium, which evaluates the strategic choices facing DCS company in next 3 years to ensure validity in supporting your recommendation in the consultancy report. So critically evaluate the contents of the spreadsheet, including assumptions made by DCS company. So now there's one spreadsheet being prepared. There's one spreadsheet being prepared by Freddie Lithium, right? There's one spreadsheet being prepared by Freddie Lithium. So you have to look for that also, right? Strategic choices facing DCS company in next 3 years. So you have to critically evaluate the contents of the spreadsheet, including any assumptions made. You have to critically evaluate the contents in the spreadsheet, including any assumptions made, right? And these are skepticism skills, right? These are skepticism skills. So critically evaluate the contents of the spreadsheet, including assumptions that you have made, right? Skepticism skills here, right? Now prepare some key recommendations for consultancy report. I'm using the same color for both of the parts because they could be tackled from one exhibit. Key recommendations for the consultancy report using supporting evidence to advise on the two strategies, refocus or realign, DCS should incorporate. So I guess this is going to be answered from the data exhibit 5, right? This is going to be answered from exhibit 5, where the alternative strategies was given, So that requirement, I guess, particularly pertains to that requirement, exhibit 5. And now the third one. You have highlighted from your interview with Java Pariah and from your notes from the middle management to focus group meeting that there are some key stakeholders management and engagement issues. So there have been some management and engagement issues, right? There have been some management and engagement issues, and they want you to discuss that also. So using an appropriate stakeholder analysis, I guess you guys remember we have done that. Mendelow's stakeholder mapping model, right? We'll be doing this again also, no worries. But in, I guess, silver or cheap kit, we have done that, right? So evaluate relative power and interest of the following 3 stakeholder groups, strategies for engaging with them and should have changed, right? So power and interest for the following 3 stakeholder groups and strategies for engaging with them. Become a public limited company, shareholders, employees, lenders, right? Professional marks are available for analytical skills. Processing power and interest, right? And 11 marks, so approx 7 points. Criticize the CEOs and HR directors' ethical and professional behavior relating to the design, conduct, and reporting of staff satisfaction survey and skepticism. They have, I guess, misconducted any particular survey for which the results were disclosed. So you have to criticize them. So if we summarize the requirements, right? If we summarize the requirements, now what's they have demanded? If we just summarized, right? Requirements. I guess 1A is quarter 5 courses or pastel analysis, right? B is, I'll say, integrated reporting. C is governance structure, right? D is governance structure. D is, sorry, it was 1A part 1 and then 1A part 2. These are that, right? 1A part 1 and 1A part 2. Now this is B, and the C is slides on cloud computing and big data, right? Slides on cloud computing and big data. Then D is environmental and sustainability audit, right? It's pertained particularly to environmental and sustainability audit. Right? Then the second requirement is risk and their mitigation strategies, right? So 2A is risk and mitigation strategies. Risk and mitigation strategies. B is going to be part 1 and part 2 are kind of same. That you need to critically evaluate spreadsheet and then recommendations, right? So B part 1, part 2, critical evaluation of strategies, right? And recommendations. And recommendations. That's also been given to you. That's also been given to you, right? And the third is stakeholder analysis, A part, stakeholder analysis, and then something pertaining to staff satisfaction survey. Something misconduct have happened that pertains to staff satisfaction survey. So if I just look into this, these are the requirements, and the quantum of requirements you should be able to assess in the SBL's world, right? When it was a 4-hour exam, you could see that these were the requirements for a 100 marks paper, right? These were the requirements for a 100 marks paper. It was, I guess, more than enough, right? So now, what's target till now? See, the target is to cover and read exhibits and try to cover these theoretical topics which you haven't read, right? Just like you need to have a look into cloud computing and big data. You need to know about the environmental and sustainability audit, the governance structure. Although you guys know a bit of these things earlier, but what I want is that you should have a revision of these topics also, so that we could draft and you could see that how to apply the big data concepts in here, right? You should see that how to apply the risk and its mitigation strategies here, right? You should see that how to apply stakeholders mapping model, right? So we're gonna be doing that. But till now, we have learned pastel, quarter, and IR. So we could attempt this particular requirement without any hesitation. Just read the data and we can attempt that, right? And some kind of governance is also an easy part. So this question, I told you, if you know the relevant topics, this question is one of the easy one, right? This question is one of the easy one. The second requirement is quite a tough one. But again, you cannot be dependent on one particular requirement, right? So let's keep requirements in mind, right? Best, Porter, and then the next one was integrated reporting, then big data, cloud computing, environmental and sustainability audit, risk and their mitigation strategies, valuation of the strategies and recommendations, stakeholder analysis, and then staff satisfaction survey. So these, I'll say, around 9 requirements you have that you need to follow. So now, Exhibit 1, background report about DCS company. Now, remember that background is always an important thing, right? Background is always an important thing and can be used in every requirement, right? So background is an important thing and it can be used in every requirement, right? Just a second. Yeah. So to Huilui, who's Huili? We are Huilui. We have a single role in every requirement, right? Single role. We are the consultant. Although in the specimen 2, we have different roles. Yeah. Then Danny Lemon, organizational overview, the external environment, and DCS business model, 20th November, right? So now, yeah. So screen is now visible. A mistake. I have just avoided the screen sharing for a few minutes, but now that it's done. So organizational overview. Organizational overview. What's that? DCS, a publicly listed company. So DCS is a publicly listed company. Our general information color is green. So a publicly listed company. On the small companies capitalization index for the National Stock Exchange, used to be privately owned high technology company established in 1997 by computer engineer Java Piraya. The CEO is the founder of that company. Due to rapid expansion over the following years, DCS needed to source additional capital to fund its future growth and was floated to the National Stock Exchange in 2006. So it was floated to the National Stock Exchange. This allowed Java Piraya to realize this majority shareholding in a private company. 30% of flotation was purchased by institutional investors, right? And DCS also borrowed long-term funds leverage for the newly share capital. Before flotation, the company was almost exclusively financed from the founder's share capital, retained earnings, and short-term finances. So now, in order to grow, Mr. Java have sold his shareholding, and it has led to around 30% of the flotation that was given to institutional investors, right? External environment, I guess it's important, right? For best analysis, we are going to do all the Porter 5 forces. So it's going to be important, right? So we're going to be choosing the appropriate color of the requirement. DCS has its headquarters in Priden, a prosperous developed nation with stable and well-established political system, which has highly developed labor laws, including a national minimum wage and newly introduced obligatory contributory pension scheme. So these all are data pertaining to the analysis, external and environment analysis. The government, like many governments worldwide, has invested heavily in telecommunication infrastructure. So I guess it's a good point for DCS because we pertains to this industry, which has led significant growth in social media, and where virtually 75% of population are connected through internet. So 75% of population is connected here through internet, right? So 75% of population is connected here through internet. A range of devices, including mobile technology. The government is also proposing a new carbon tax. Now, this point could be used in environment, right? This point could be used in environment requirement, right? Carbon tax. which will affect companies that manufacture and provide ID network service such as data communication component and services. The electronics and IT industry has recently been identified as a sector with an increasing carbon footprint caused by their applications such as component cooling devices, complex telecommunication components, and cloud computing technology. Although DCS company can approximately estimate its carbon footprint from the manufacture and supply of components from its factory, it has not yet developed the formal system and process to manage carbon footprint. So we haven't got, right? DCS haven't got any system to manage environment, right? Any system to manage environment. DCS haven't got that, right? DCS haven't got that. Now, DCS had two distinct product service areas: data communication components manufacture and supply, and maintenance of network management system, including technical support. The DCS employees are a mixture of technically qualified engineers working in research and development, factory staff manufacturing and assembling products, and IT sales service support team. Since the flotation of the company, 60% of production employees in the data communication components factory joined major trade union. So another best point, right? In 2012, this country suffered an economic downturn, which led many companies to postpone their technological investments. So economic downturn, postpone technological investment, and then DCS employed 150 full-time employees. Now, the main revenue source from DCS is high volume. Now, the main revenue source is high volume and low cost data communication component manufacturer part business. It has 1% of total market share. So we are in that particular industry for which we have only 1% of the market share, right? For which we have only 1% of the market share, which accounts for approximately 65% of DCS total turnover. So now think of that, right? We offer two type of businesses, right? We offer two type of businesses. The data communication components, it's basically 1% of market share. We have 1% of market share, and that 1% of market share tends to be 65% of our turnover, right? So that means from specialized services, we earn 35%. So that means from specialized services that we provide, we earn 35%. Now listen, 1% of market is 65% of turnover for this particular product of ours. We have 1% of market, and that's 65% of turnover. So that means out of 100, we earn 65% from here and 35% from here, right? And 35% from here. Now, DCS mainly sells and supplies large volumes of components to original equipment manufacturers. So it's one of our main customers, right? 30% of which are based in Britain, on a continent which has single currency, which is devaluing against Britain dollars, right? So we are selling outside Britain also, and their currency is devaluing. So it's a risk for us or not? Just think of that, right? Success in the data communication component sectors comes from economies of scales achieved by producing high volumes and keeping prices low. DCS company has achieved this despite producing components in a country where there's significant employment legislation. So there is employment legislation, minimum wage rates, but still we have been successful to keep our prices low. We are successful to keep our prices low, right? Now, the second product area is much smaller and is based on contracts with specialist IT management network management system, mainly to domestic medium-sized enterprises, which currently yields a relative high profit margin. So now think of that, right? Our second product that the services we give is a relatively higher gross profit margin, and that's for sure, right? Our main product, which is running, usually earns lesser because we need to be competitive in that, right? But the associated product that we offer, we usually earn higher there, right? We usually earn higher there. So A key aspect of second product area is the installation and support big data analytics capability and cloud computing storage, which can be used to replace existing costly IT architectures as such as unsophisticated data warehouses. So this is basically an eliminator. The service that we are going to give is kind of a disruptive technology to the other unsophisticated data warehouses to allow business clients to collect and analyze more targeted and timely data about their own customers and purchasing patterns, right? Much of this can be obtained from data held within social business and networking software, right? Much of this can be obtained from data held within social and business and networking software. Now, transcript from interview held between Java Piraya, CEO of DCS company. Now that's an exhibit 2, right? So thank you very much, Mr. Java, Mr. Praya, for showing me around. I found your staff and their comments very interesting. First of all, what I asked how to tell you, describe how your company is structured and managed. So here we could look for the governance related issues, right? Here we could look for the governance related issues, right? So let's go for that. I would describe DCS as a fairly centralized. He says, Mr. Java says that it's centralized. I suppose management speak. We would describe the DCS management structure as a functional bureaucracy. We prefer not to allow too much managerial or departmental autonomy. So how it's bureau? They have led to an organization which is a bureaucratic organization for their own good, of course, to ensure that they act in the best interest of DCS and to avoid irresponsible risk taking, which unfortunately has happened in the past. We expect middle line managers to respect and respond positively to senior management requests or directives and not to question these unless they are very sure about their facts. So they're kind of a no listen organization. They do not want to listen, they just want to direct them, right? This is probably a legacy from the pre-flotation area, and you could also think of it, right? You could also think of it that post-flotation, we could suggest them. Post-flotation, we could suggest them for changes, right? Post-flotation, we could suggest them for changes. Where much of strategic direction was always decided by me and my closest senior directors, most of whom were my family and trusted friends. So it's also a governance issue, right? Family and trusted friends. So it's an governance issue. Would you mind explaining how your company is directed and describing corporate governance arrangements? Yeah. So CEO and chairman, Java Puraya, one issue. Another issue is this. One is family and friends. Second is this. Well, CEO and chairman should not be the same person, right? Now, marketing director is Jules Debris, Tony Norbury, Tosh Mondal, finance director, Trish Hopkins, SF Pirelli, NED. Now, since 2006, DCS has been governed by a board of directors with me acting as CEO and chairman, giving me sufficient control to effectively direct, right, the company and take strong leadership over the board, encouraging debate and driving the agenda. The board comprises a marketing director, Jules, right? He was my original sales manager employed by the company who I have known long time now. We also have production and IT director, Tony, who has been in the company for 10 years. He has strong background in data communication hardware. And Tosh is our finance director before company was listed in the National Stock Exchange. Trish Hopkins, our female HR director, and benefit from independent and NED. Right, we were fortunate to appoint Asaf because he is a very talented businessman and also an ED of one of our two largest suppliers. So it's also an governance issue. It's also an governance issue that this is uh, a cross directorship, right? One of our supplier has an ED of which we have an ED, right? So it's a cross directorship, which is a bad corporate governance. And along with that, only one NED it's also an issue, right? Only one entity, it's also an issue. So now that is really useful background, Mr. Piraya. So what about standing governance committees, which presumably report to the board? We have an audit committee constituted of 3 experienced network engineers who focus and investigate on quality. To promote more independence, we have also appointed NAD as a chairman on this committee, who's a formal compliance officer at an airport, whereas whose background is air traffic and aviation, but she is a telecommunication expert, right? So audit committee seems fine. We could also say that Mr. Asaf should also be in NAD, but that's also good. Risk committee, DCS has no separate board appointed risk, remuneration and nomination committees. So here comes the point that they should have these committees also. All strategic and long-term planning decided upon the main board. So board have a too much work, right? They have to do the work of these committees also. Our management structure and culture is such that we embed risk management through having that close control over staff, and I mentioned you too positively previously. As for salary, we strongly believe that all members should be on fixed salary to encourage them. Yeah, fixed salary means less motivation, right? They could be performance related salaries, right? So long-term perspectives and reward them with short-term performances. Bonuses, they could be misleading financials for the bonuses. So there are many issues, right? There are many issues here which we could discuss. As far as recruitment, remuneration, and succession planning, I personally approve and manage all middle and senior staff and staff promotions, and there's no need for formal induction process. So he's totally running the HR. He's being CEO, being the HR head. Again, too much workload. He's doing CEO, chairman, and then the HR related work, right? They must have the nomination or remuneration committees here, right? Now that you're a listed company, how do you report to engage with your shareholders? DCS does not, since now you are listed, so they must have an engagement with shareholders by having AGMs, right? So DCS does not have special governance or reporting structures to engage with shareholders, including institutional shareholders. But of course, we do meet a minimum company law in relation to statutory reporting, shareholder and voting other constitutional rights. That was all useful, Mr. Pryor, but I would like to know more data about the performance of DCS, a copy of October board report, which I know was considering their strategic options. I will ask Tosh to send you integrated reporting data attached on the spreadsheet. I'll also ask marketing directors to send you the report. Thank you, Pariah. So apparently no AGMs. So this is going to be also a governance issue. So see, without even reading the governance related work, you guys have been able to do that, to identify the governance related issues. So without even doing governance chapter, you have been able to identify this. This is what SBL is, right? There's no theory, there's no nothing. You just need to practice. Now, exhibit 3. Now, exhibit 3, what's that? See, integrated reporting data. I told you this totally belongs to your that integrated performing related work, financial periods. Here's the revenues, the cost of sales, the gross profits, the expenses, PBT, PAT. So I'll say it's kind of a P&Ls, right? It's kind of the P&Ls. It's kind of P&Ls, or we could say it's kind of financial capitals, right? It's kind of financial capitals, right? And other data is a number of employees. That must be human capital. These two things, staff turnover and number of employees, I guess can be human capital, right? It's an integrated reporting. No? Similarly, number of orders delivered late can be a social capital, right? Customer complaints, Similarly, investment in non-current manufacturing equipment, that can be a percentage of sales revenue, manufactured capital, right? Similarly, R&D expenditure can be intellectual capital. So we have got information on the capitals, right? Carbon emission can be environment capital. So we need to evaluate this data also and to draft integrated reporting answer. We have been given the capitals data, but again, we have to look for it. Right? To make sure employees satisfaction survey might be social, right? So you have to look for it, right? And I have to identify the trends here. The satisfaction of employees was 72%, but now 61%. Why? Because the misconduct held by Java and all that, right? Or Java has been too powerful. That's why employee might be not that much motivated towards it, right? Similarly, staff turnover was 4%. Now, high human capital seems depleting. So this is how you need to comment on it, right? Then let's go for Exhibit 4. That's October board report, because we have asked for it, right? Because we have asked for it, the October board report. So we need to look for it. Now. What's that? I hope you guys have a clear understanding now of the questions and how to attempt it, right? Now, the October board report. This report is based on information obtained from all EDs under several main headings. The report highlights risks, opportunities, and I'll say the future outlook of DCS. It also focuses on strategy and resource allocation, highlighting key strategic decisions which the board will need to make in near future, right? Risk and opportunities. What are the specific risks and opportunities which affect DCS ability to create value for the short term, long term, and how the organization is dealing with them? So by 2015, the international market for data communication components started to saturate. Now this market has been saturating, right? So we got one risk. There was a question on the risk. Remember, there was a question on the risk. Yeah. So there's a question on the risk. So the seems saturating market, right? For the supply of the contracts, we are now finding it increasingly difficult and costly to maintain the required level of network support. It's getting harder to recruit high caliber staff, so staff retention risk that could be linked to the staff turnover that's been increasing. The headquarters of DCS, although a modern site, is a geographical location which is unattractive for key personnel to relocate. As pride in is right unprofessional or unattractive. Our specialist is the system support side of business are currently overstretched because many key staff have been headhunted or taken early requirements. So staff motivation seems to be an issue because some of the working staff seems to be overstretched. Lenders have until recently been quite willing to lend DCS long term uh, for the competitive interest rates, but are not tightening their credit lines, right? But are not tightening their credit lines. So financial risk also exists, right? Financial risk also exists here, right? Yeah, the company placing covenants, financial gearing with acceptable limits. They're increasing their interest rates to compensate for financial risk. It is unlikely that any future growth or investment can be financed from further debt. You need to use considerable cash reserves or utilize internally generated funds. Currently, DCS is geared at a capital of 12%. So financial risk also seems to be here, right? Now, this is a board report. Now, think what board is discussing. Till now, we were estimating that DCS seems very nice and very good. But since we have gotten to the board report, we just identified that it's not that much good, right? That's why board reports are kept confidential. Now, what challenges and uncertainties is DCS likely to encounter in pursuing strategy. What are the potential implications of business performances, right? So we have some strategies to look for it. So we have asked their way out on the strategies. DCS currently manufactures 50% of data communication components used in its own products. Now the rest, complete components, including conductors and processors, are bought in from multinational global suppliers, right? Now the Border 5 forces data might be here, right? Border 5 forces data might be here. These suppliers become the key players. So now these suppliers, the suppliers of these components of the semiconductors and microprocessors are the key players, right? Are the key players in the market through a succession of acquisition and mergers where previously there were more suppliers, all with a such small market share. Recently, serious production problems have resulted in component shortage for these key suppliers, creating significant delays in manufacturing and customer deliveries. One of our recently acquired customer accounts 40% our sales in this area. So in this particular area, like the sales of semiconductors and microprocessors related products account for 40% for OEM, right? Now, marketing director, forecast 2016 beyond indicated stronger growth from supply and sales support for specialized IT management service to currently installed networks in the domestic financial sector, rather than from the manufacture of components to OEMs or installation of new networks to large companies. The other potential growth is in providing cloud computing and data analytics for SME. So a particular data for cloud computing here, there's currently only 3 companies which provide these specialist services in Friday. So we have a competitive advantage. We can get competitive advantage, right, in cloud computing and all that. We can get competitive advantage in cloud computing and all that, right? I colored with that requirement, but that seems to be more general. That requirement seems to be more general. As ED, we need appropriate strategy for 3 to 5 years. Our current trends, we are looking at approximate 10% year-on-year decline in our revenues for next 3 years. At the forthcoming board meeting, we need to discuss and decide on the best strategy. We need to decide between 2 strategies. Do we realign? Now, these are the 2 strategies you are looking for, right? For the requirement. That was the requirement, I guess. Yeah. So these are the 2 strategies which you are looking for. Whether we realign with the business to make it less reliant on high volumes, low margin, and reallocate resources from data communication segment to additional value sector of network management. So do we just realign our business, right? To do this, we'll need to further exploit technologies such as cloud computing, DA, and seem to offer low cost data storage and all that, right? Alternative should be refocus on our core capability. So now you need to help them in identifying their strategy, whether to refocus where they are exactly or to realign or make some shift in their business models, right? Where we have such expertise, experiences, and all that. So conclusion, the DCS board should now evaluate the risk and opportunities in a key decision. DCS also need to consider chosen strategy and how it will finance it. Here it is, information below. Forecast tangible benefits and costs relating to potential scenarios. In 2015, we have estimated that the net cash contribution from the data communication component segment of business is 1.55 million, and net cash contribution from network supply is this. So they have given you the cash contributions, right, of both of the business. These are in after interest and tax. So these expectation is total cash flow contribution about 10, which will continue to decline about 10% each year if we do nothing. So if we are doing nothing, so our cash flow is going to be declining by 10%. Refocus, we can implement this strategy by reorganizing, making manufacturing cost efficiencies and targeting data communication component customers more effectively. If we are successful, we estimate that we can at least maintain a contribution for the next 3 years, right? We can at least maintain a contribution from both of the businesses, total cash contribution from this. While realignment The net cash contribution from communication sector is forecast to decline this. This is regardless of how net cash contribution is expected to grow under of our assumptions. Forecast annual fixed cost and working capital savings from the decline in expected to be this. The result in carbon tax cost savings of this, giving a total of this. So note that these independent with the growth below emerges, right? Table 1 shows the projected growth in the cash flows, and they have given you a table of particular that right now. Now try to understand this table. Now, using this complete segment or this complete page, you are going to suggest them that whether they need to refocus or they need to realign. Using this particular hat, you are going to suggest them whether they need to be refocusing or they're going to be realigning, right? So additional cash contribution from network support business will grow by 25% each of year for next 3 years. Probability is this: forecast annual increase in fixed cost, forecast annual saving from decline in this segment, right? Annual cash contribution from network support business will grow by 15%. Now, these are the assumptions they have made, right? So probability of this being successful is 60%. Probability of this being successful is 60%, 30%, and it's 10%, right? And it's the impact, right? And when there's a probability and outcome, we could use EV. I've told you we could use expected value, right? But again, while attempting the requirement, we'll be following what seems more appropriate, right? Expected value can be used here, but again, we'll be seeing what's appropriate, right? So plenty of data for refocusing and realigning. So now you have to categorize it, that what you'll do, what you'll follow, what you'll just make it, and then we'll craft, right? These are the assumptions which are going to be some challenging in while plotting this in your answer. So we'll be learning a lot in this particular head, right? Then exhibit 5, an evaluation of strategy choices. So they have this, the lithium person, Freddie Lithium, have made this for us, right? He has incorporated these assumptions. He has incorporated these assumptions in the financials, right? So it's just like that. So total for strategy 1, we are going to earning this, and total for strategy 2, we are going to earning this. So here it is, strategy 2 compared with strategy 1, and now we have to understand this Excel because it was one of the questions, if you remember. They've asked you to critically evaluate first, right, the spreadsheet, including any assumptions made, and then you have to provide recommendations for refocusing and realigning, and then you have to provide recommendations for refocusing and realigning, right? So let's look into this. With total cash contribution maintained, data communication is 1.55, network supply and support is 0.85. So total for strategy 1 seems easy. Now, network supply and support, the probabilities are here, right? 25%, 15%, 10%. We have incorporated this in numbers, right? We have incorporated in this numbers, and so expected value is calculated. I told you we could look for expected value, but the guy has done this for us, right? Our friend has done this for us, right? So data communication, 1.55, 10% decline. Total cash contribution for strategy 2, that's total of this plus this, right? So this is total for this incremental cash contribution, that's 4 minus 1. So this is the cash contribution, right? So this is the incremental cash contribution. I'm just letting you know the workings, and then we'll be critically evaluating and while attempting, right? So additional annual fixed cost based on expected growth. So this was the growth expected. These were the probabilities. So we have got this number, expected value of the fixed cost, cash fixed cost saving. It gives you a saving of 5 lakh. It told us, right? it told us that it will give us the saving of 5 lakhs. So here it is, right? Guys, be attentive. So this is the fixed cost incremental, and now strategy 2 compared with strategy A. So this is how incremental net cash contribution. Now they have deducted the fixed cost also. So the net cash contribution from strategy 2 compared with strategy A is this. And now you have to challenge this. Now you have to challenge this, right? That how these probabilities has been used, or why the 10% decline. Now you have to challenge these assumptions, right? Critically. We'll be attempting this, so don't worry. We'll be attempting this. And once we have completed this past paper, you will have an idea of how to do that, right? And now the last part, stakeholder analysis and CEO and HR professional behavior. A proper exhibit for this requirement seems to be exhibit 6, right? A proper exhibit from these requirements seems to be exhibit 6. So now, notes from middle management focus group meeting. Having read the integrated reporting data and studying the transcript, your conversation with Java prior, you need more background information of the key issues which had come to your attention. You therefore invited a representative team of middle managers to focus group meeting and asked them two key questions from which the following comments were noted, right? Quote, one from management accountant in the finance directorate. When undertaking capital investment appraisal, we have strict policy of evaluating investments or projects over a maximum of 3 years to ignore cash flows, right? To ensure that any investment we make, we must pay back within that time. So their payback is approximately, I guess, 3 years, right? This ensures that we do not accept unviable projects. Question 2, from engineer in the network. What really annoys me is the fact that in 2011, CEO and HR director introduces annual staff survey. Although they promised anonymity, so they promised anonymity in this survey, required us to give details of our age, ethnicity, length of service, department in which we are employed. I was called for the meeting last year, who implicitly threatened me. Now that means the comments were made out and made comments such as, if you don't like working here, why not look for another job? Why you are not looking for another job? It's made very clear that this meeting was private and kept confidential. I was not permitted to discuss the existence or outcomes of these meetings, or there would be consequences. So that means he had a discussion with the seniors, but that resultantly was out, right? So this is a bad thing. This is an unprofessional thing, right? Now, technician and data communication component. I felt the staff satisfaction survey was designed in a way which dissuaded negative feedback, and key issues known to be concerned staff obtained from informal grapevine were deliberately omitted the staff questions, right? In addition, the way the results were presented by managers and visual graphic views seemed to play down the negative feedback and concentrated on the positive factors. So that they think there was no anonymity. They think there was no anonymity, and they only wanted to hear positive feedbacks, right? And they only wanted to hear positive feedbacks. For example, emphasis was made of how well staff regarded their own performances, which seemed to have more favorable feedback compared with other questions about confidence, leadership, company. I didn't think this is the true picture. So people didn't like that, right? Code 4, we are rushed off our feet due to staff leaving. Our sales are getting larger. It's difficult to get around to our customers. This means we have difficulty getting our orders on time and are often late in appointments. Although sales productivity might be improving because fewer of us covering a greater geographical area, customers are not satisfied as they used to be and making more complaints. After this meeting, you went back to your office, scheduled the meeting from Danny and Freddie, staff preparing a consultancy report. That's how this lengthy question came to an end. So yeah, this is a complete planner, right? Planner for this particular DCS. If you look for it, we have got, I guess, enough data for part 1. We have a complete exhibit for part 2. We have more than requirement information of part B, right? It seems to be general, the cloud computing and all that. It seems to be general, as I told you. This also seems to be a general part, right? I told you. The risk, we have got points. We have got points for this, right? We have got points for this. It is not particular to one exhibit, but we have got points like reliance on one customer, financial risk, environmental risk. So we have got 3 main risks, right? The supply risk. There are many risks, right? We have got data for this also. The spreadsheet has been given, which needs critical evaluation and key recommendations, right? Engaging should have changed after DCS company. So how the engagement should have been changed? With shareholders, you need to have an AGMs, right? With employees, you need to have surveys and outdoor activities, I'll say. With lenders, you have some better terms so that a good negotiations been done. So it seems to be the general one. The part A also seems to be the general one, whereas part B seems to be the exhibit 6. CEO criticized CEO and HR director of professional behavior relating to design and misconduct. Skepticism skills, right? Skepticism skills, right? So this is your complete planner for SBL specimen 1. So now what you guys need to do in the next class, I'll be solving with teaching you the theoretical topics this as well. It will take around 2 or might be 1.5 classes to complete this past paper, right? So I have planned this in front of you. You have read many data. If you want to attempt any particular requirement, you could. If you want to see my answer, that's in the book. My planner is in the book, but I'll be drafting this question in the next class so that you could have an idea that how to cover each and every past paper. If there are any questions, you guys can text me on WhatsApp. My number is +92 331 2623 849. We'll be having more and more sessions of it, right? If anyone wants to attempt this question, they can. Otherwise, in the next class, I'll be solving these questions with you. I'll be teaching first the topics, the governance, the big data cloud computing, the environment, right? The stakeholder mapping model, and then we'll be diving into that question and driving it, right? And drafting it. So just have a brief idea of the requirements of the data that you have been given. Take a printout of this question, do the planning on it, and then we'll be solving it, right? So have a great day. See you all in the next class. Take care.